again and again and again and still.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us for this latest episode of It's Not Cage Fighting's preview shows. My name is Karl, and as ever, I am joined by Mr. Tim Close.
Hello there.
And Mr. Max Grant.
You're right.
And you join us as well. We are right in the middle of December as you're watching this show right now, so it's coming up to Christmas, lads.
Aye, I don't know whether to look forward or not. Mega busy at the minute.
Expensive as well.
I have to say though, the studio isn't looking overly Christmassy, is it?
No, definitely not. I expected a tray like. We might do that after the show.
How about this? Is that going to make it better?
There you go.
There we go.
There you go. I'll probably take that down, actually. It's people are going to get distracted by that. I bought this for the kids, so we'll just put that down there, and we'll get back to what people actually care about, which is us talking about mixed martial arts. Now, this past month in MMA has been hectic. There's been a card pretty much every week, a lot of very important ones. Normally, we like to focus on the positives when it comes to this show, but I think the big story which has come from the past 30 days is a bit of a low note. We need to talk about Tito versus Chuck.
I didn't know if I watched it properly. I was like that. I'm a big fan of them both, actually. I know some people are only a fan of one or the other, but I'm not. I like them both, and I don't know before the fight who I wanted to actually win, because I didn't know whether to get Chuck to win and just wrap it up once and for all, or you could say how bad Tito wanted it. But I wouldn't have minded whoever won if they put a performance. But Chuck really, and I hate criticising him because honestly I am a massive fan, but that was just not right. It was painful to watch, you know.
And Tito looked so much bigger than him.
Yeah.
Like Chuck looked like.
But even if it doesn't matter who Chuck fought that night, Chuck's actual not defense actually ability to go forward and everything, he just did not. It looked like he'd never been in there before.
Did you see any of the sparring videos beforehand?
Yeah,
So
well, I thought they
slow.
were taking the mick.
He looked so slow, man. It was.
I thought there were Mickey takes. We were on about this in the gym before the fight actually took place. And they said, "Have you seen these fine?" I was honestly saying, it's a joke, man. I said, he's putting them out in the thing so people think, oh, look at him, man, and underestimate him. And then he did it in the real fight. I'm on. Oh, no. Because I wouldn't have put them sparring videos on the internet.
It was rough.
I think, to be fair, if you looked at the first minute of that fight, Tito did look a little bit nervous, did think maybe Chuck is sort of playing possum a little bit here. Once Chuck hit that one sort of big strike he had, and Tito realised he's got no power behind him, it was just an easy game for him, and Tito just went on the offence after that. And
apparently it's Tito and Hendo next. Apparently. It'll be a bit more of a fight.
Well, yeah, Dan Henderson did, he nearly won the middleweight title when he was like 46, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So hopefully it would be...
They should never have had that fight.
No. I can see why Tito wanted it.
I can see why he
but I can't say why Chuck wanted it. I know he got apparently £250,000, which that's maybe why you would do it. But realistically, I personally, me as a fighter, if I beat someone twice, even in 10 years' time, I don't know why I'd go back and fight them for a third time.
Yeah.
If it was 1-1, I understand, and I could understand Tito's point of view, definitely, because he wants to revenge the the losses which he's done. But why Chuck? I mean, if Chuck wanted to come back and get a payday, I'm sure he could have fought anyone and got just as much money, maybe, unless he thought Tito was an easy option.
Even CM Punk?
What?
Even CM Punk?
No.
I don't know if CM Punk would beat him.
I think Tito, like the third fight, for me, Tito's not proving anything.
No.
You've lost twice and now you've beaten an old man.
True, but I think psychologically, I know what you're saying. It's a weird one that in the primes.
I can see why.
At the end of the day, people might say, but in the primes, Chuck would beat, right? But Tito might go, yeah, but this is nowadays, and nowadays I'm the better fighter.
They're both aged, so.
Yeah, it's as if Tito's still Peter Pan and stuck in his prime.
Tito's still been slightly more current. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Oh, yes, definitely. Chuck Liddell. I mean, Chuck Liddell never fought since I think it was 10 year, 8 year. And I think his last 3 losses were he got beat his last 3. I'm sure
it was Rashad, Shogun, and
Rich Franklin. Yeah, Rich Franklin, I think, was his last one, wasn't it? Which I think, if I remember rightly, he was doing well in the fight, and he got caught and knocked out. And then Dana White retired him. I don't think he retired off his own back, so maybe he wasn't ready. But he should have maybe fought a year later, not 8 year.
On the positive side, though, we did get 2 of the best fights of the year. UFC 230, where we had Djokovic versus Weidman. Yeah. Amazing fight. And then 1 week later, one of the best knockouts of all time, Yaya Rodriguez versus the Korean Zombie.
Yeah, brilliant.
I mean, that was...
That's what it's all about, mixed martial arts.
You couldn't have a bet on that. That was just... It was literally last second, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last second.
Brilliant. Yeah,
crazy elbow to do it as well. Like I didn't expect anything like that.
No.
Especially because they were doing each other up before, and like, come on, let's have it, and then out on the image. Yeah, that was a quality finish. And even the Jacare one, the Jacare White
Yeah.
was a good fight.
Because what was great about that was it was almost as if Jacare knew Weidman was a fantastic wrestler.
Yeah.
Weidman knew Jacare was a fantastic submission expert. So they deliberately kept it standing, and it just turned into this wild brawl.
It did,
Brilliant. That's the, like I say, that makes the fights, doesn't it?
Turning our attention though to this card coming up, UFC 231. We are back in Canada once again. Now, UFC shows in Canada always seem to be a bit love or hate. Either the cards turn out absolutely amazing, so you can look at 165 and 206 as examples of that. Or they turn out absolutely dreadful. So you look at things like 149, 161, 215. Which way do you think this one going to go?
It's hard to tell really because like you say, there's been previous ones for me where the lineup's been quite good and you think they're going to be good fights and it's just disappointed.
I would have said this was middle of the road.
Yeah.
But because you're saying this love hate, you're either going to have a fantastic fight card or a terrible one. But I mean, looking at it, I don't think the UFC, I don't think the undercard's fantastic. The main five fights, they're not blow-away fights, but I think at the same time, the credible enough, if you live over there and you're there, you would definitely still buy the tickets. You wouldn't say, I'm not paying for that.
Yeah.
So I think it's enough what they've done.
I think the main and the core main especially
Yeah.
are very intriguing
Yeah.
fights.
Yeah, I would.
And you know that when you get two big fights like that and stuff, they carry the rest of the fight card. I mean, at the end of the day, even the first fights and everything, they're still, okay, they might be relatively unknown, but they're all quality fighters in the UFC. So, you know, like I say, the main fights probably carry the rest of the show.
Yeah, I think you just got to see how the fights play out. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
It could be any card or in any location that either disappoints or
Tu-
succeeds.
Turning our attention to those prelims, is there any fight in particular which stands out for you? Or fighter?
Nothing in...
I think for me, the Chad Lepre versus Diego Lima one for me, only because I like Diego Lima. I know he's getting on a little bit now, and he's been around quite a while, but I've always liked his fighting style. He is quite aggressive, but I don't know if his time's close to being up. Like he's a good fighter, but he's still fighting undercard and prelims and that.
But I think he's
left UFC and come back, hasn't he?
He was on the 25th season of Tough to get back into the show.
Exactly. So
Do you do that?
I even liked him in that, but I think he's had his opportunities. He's got to kind of now's the time to prove it.
Yeah. Or, you know what I mean, he's a perfect fighter for the UFC to put him on the undercards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what you
One
said,
of
if
those
he,
fighters,
yeah. And I don't think he'll go much further than that, but I think he'll be happy where he's at.
I mean, there's a couple of names which stand out for me in particular. I think Eric Anders is much well liked by the top brass. He's fought, I think, about 3 or 4 times already this year. Exciting style, a lot of explosive knockout power as well. But against Theodorou, who has a reputation of being a dull fighter, I question if he can get a good match out of him. And similarly, I think Gedalia against Anzarov, Claudia, I love, very explosive, entertaining fighter. But I think a match against Anzarov's a bit of a waste of her talents.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely is for me. Like
Spoilers.
when I seen it on there, I was kind of like, it seems like a demotion almost to fighting. I don't know. I just think she's a much better fighter to be on the prelims, and she should be getting a bigger name.
Yeah.
For me personally.
I think her versus Waterson would be an interesting fight.
Definitely.
You say if with promoters, you obviously know myself, if they can't get the fight they want, but she still want to fight,
Yeah.
then what they might do is look at, get this fight out, get your fight. She'll get a bit of a payday and a boost in everything. Keep it ticking over, more importantly, and then say, look, at next year you'll get that, and she might be happy with that. You know what I mean? Under the radar, go over the fighting kind of to get a win, and come back and say go on to bigger and better things.
And she's always been a very active fighter as well.
Yeah,
I
so
think-
she chance to be fighting fit all the time. She's might be one of the fighters that stay fit and realistically waiting for the phone to go and say, look, would you fight?
Well, that fight was actually originally going to be on the main card. And then there was a bit of a shuffle around. Obviously, we lost Bektic versus Moicano, which is a bit of a blow. And then the UFC used that to say, okay, we've changed our mind about this. Maybe this fight would be better on Fight Pass, etc.
Yeah.
But it does mean we did have a change to the main card. And one of those fights which was promoted from Fight Pass onto the main card is the first fight we're going to be discussing, which is taking place in the featherweight division. And it is Canada's own Akeem Dawodu, who's taking on Kyle Bochniak. I don't know about you. Before it got moved onto the main card, this was the fight I was most looking forward to out of the prelims.
You
Yeah.
like it that much?
I think mainly more for momentum and hype
okay.
rather than anything else. I think Dawodu, I watched some of his stuff when he was in WSOF. Explosive kickboxer. I think his takedown defense is very good as well. And Bochniak is somebody who has so much heart. He's not the best fighter in the world, but as we saw against Zabit, he can make it into a brawl.
But the only thing with him is I think he's got that potential, but you need to be more consistent.
Yes.
Like
Going off,
I'm sure he's lost, something like that.
going back to the audience, do you think they're going to be half disappointed that they haven't got a Canadian good enough or anything for a main event? I know that obviously what CBS kicking about still and stuff like that, but is there anyone else they've really got, or thinking, oh, he should be on that card, he should be on the main card, or co-main or main event? You know, I mean, they've got one fighter there on the main card.
You've actually made a really good point there. There is a real lull in Canadian MMA right now.
Yeah, and I know I'm really going off. I'm going back to geography, but look at the size of the country. You know what I mean? Surely they've got some potential talent out there fighting. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I think that's what the Canadians would be hoping for. Because once that fight's over, obviously you've got the die-hard UFC fans who will be there, but and looking to watch main events and co-main events. But really, it's nice. It's nice for a Brit, I think, like when I'm talking about us now, when we have a Brit main event in England, you know what I mean? So surely they're the same and they want a Canadian main event, you know what I mean?
And I think as well, I forget the name now of GSP's gym.
I'll come back to us.
But there was a time where there seemed to be a lot of Canadian prospects.
Yeah.
And when we were discussing before about
and around
McDonald, he was going to be another next.
Yeah.
But even going past McDonald, that you also had people like Corte, who was always a reliable figure, Mark Homanek.
Yeah.
So,
No, there was, like I say, I mean, we're probably missing people out, you know what I mean? I'll put you on the spot and put myself on the spot, but it's just, I thought, like, when the UFC go to Canada, you would think they would have someone in mind.
I think there was always that thing as well, it was going to be GSP, wasn't it?
Yeah, possibly that. I think that's maybe what's happened there.
I was actually just off the top of my head, I was thinking, I think the highest ranked Canadian fighter in the UFC is probably Alexis Davis.
Yeah.
Which is saying a lot, isn't it?
Mm.
Getting back to Dawodu though, highly rated prospect. I think he's got something like a 7-win and 1 record, and one of them was also a no contest, I believe. So great kickboxing record. I think his record's something like 90-5. And we're starting to see this trend recently where a couple of years ago we started to see these young wrestlers coming through, and now they're dominating at the top of their division.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see the antidote to that coming through, like the kickboxers, so like Adesanya in the middleweight division, and possibly Dawodu as well at featherweight.
Yeah.
It's strange how these cycles go on now. It's like strikers for a little bit, then wrestlers.
Yeah, I am. I'm still a major fan of the wrestlers being there. I mean, I know for myself, wrestling, you can base it all around wrestling. It's fantastic. But you say years ago you had a great striker, and as long as they had a bit of a takedown defense, they could get away with it because they'd be so supreme. But now everyone's so in a couple of years there'll be no such thing as
specialists.
They'll be just you're an MMA fighter, and you're good at everything. You know what I mean? Okay, you're always gonna have your strengths, definitely, but no, I mean kickboxing, like you say, and the striking's coming back around. It never really went and wrestling just boomed. For, do you know what I mean? You just saw like good wrestlers becoming like decent stand up, not to get knocked out, decent submission like decent at not getting too bad at jiu-jitsu, and the wrestling sort of dominated the fight. It was the core of the fight, if you like. But I suppose if you get a kickboxer that can learn to wrestle and keep it stood up, then
I think there's a lot of fighters that do have that kickboxing ability, but it's just not of that elite level yet.
The caliber
and
of them.
Even like Michael Bisping has that kickboxing ability, but you wouldn't maybe say he's the best kickboxer in the UFC.
No.
So I think it's just a kind of a stage now where, like you say, you've had that prime of wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think what
kickboxing's turn now.
But when sorry, Carl, but when you're that good at the kickboxing, every opponent you get, even if they can strike a bit, no doubt are going to try and get the fight to the floor.
Yeah.
And what I think the kickboxers have as well going for them is people see these highlight reel knockouts and they see the spectacular finishes, and you know Dana's a money man, and he will capitalize on something like that, and he will say this guy is the next big thing. It's easier to sell that than to sell somebody grinding you on the floor for 15 minutes.
100%. We've said this about like the mouth of people running away with them gets them somewhere, and And like I say, if you get someone who's on a 10-fight winning streak and someone here on a 10-fight winning streak, they have won 10 fights by decision, even if they've maybe beat better opposition.
Yeah.
But this person has got 10 knockouts. He'll sell that better. And it will sell to the public, because you know you're going there. Yeah, you're going to these events and watching these events to watch some real good martial artists, and it's great to see them on the floor with the submission. We understand what's going on, but you still can't beat. I don't care what anybody says. You cannot beat a knockout.
And that's the thing. When you're promoting a fight, I think a lot of the time for me, it's kind of aiming for that casual fan.
Yes.
Because people who know who the fighters are, they're going to come and watch the fights.
Yeah.
For that casual fan, they want to see that like highlight reel knockout of just knockout. So if that's what you're promoting, that I would say you're aiming at the casual fan anyway.
Yeah.
What traits stand out for you in terms of Dawodu?
For me, it's probably most like you were saying there with the striking, and I think I don't know if we discussed this before about his ring intelligence. Were we discussing that?
Yes.
I think that's maybe a side that he could possibly improve on, but I think overall kind of dominating the fight, I think that's where he'll probably kind of take control.
He does have a tendency to get caught though. We saw that against Danny Henry.
Getting too involved.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the moment caught to him because I think that was his UFC debut, and he fought on the London card, and I think he just went in there a bit too exuberant and he got caught coming in.
Yeah, but for me, that's one of the things that can happen to you
anywhere,
anytime, like.
Yeah, he'll learn from it. His coaches have pulled him.
And again, that's a learning curve that you've
got. Yeah.
You've gone to fight, you've been.
But I mean, in all fairness, in his 95 kickboxing career, he should have known about that. Yes. But like, at the end of the day, he's not fighting muppets. You go in there, you fight other high class opponents. You can get caught. You're going out there, you know what, it's kill or be killed.
Yeah. Is Kyle Bochniak the high level opponent to catch him? Do you think?
Maybe not.
It just depends which one turns up, really. Like
yes.
I say.
But I think it's a good fight. I think it's a fair fight.
Yeah. Generally, like I say though, because of his record, it's like it's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
It's been loss win.
Yeah.
It could go either way.
Yeah.
I think
could be one of them fights that like kind of shows who's the better fighter here. Full on.
I think there's a lot of people who saw Kyle Bochniak on this card and thought, oh good, we're going to get another Zabit style brawl going here, which was, in my opinion, one of the most entertaining fights of the year. Mm-hmm. But for me, if you want more of an impression of what Kyle Bochniak's like, look at something like his fight against Charles Rosa or against Brandon Davis. He's much more conservative, much more patient. I think part of the reason why he fought the way he did against Zabit was because he realised the only way I've got a chance of winning this is to turn it into a brawl. And I think depending on
he's not going to turn this one into a brawl.
Well, I think he's fighting a more technical striker.
Yeah.
So I think there is the opportunity to maybe try and do that.
Do you not think he'll go for the floor?
That's probably his best chance, actually.
Definitely.
Because Bochniak's, I think, a brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
I personally think that's what will happen, but we don't know, do we?
No. No finishes in any of his UFC fights either. Is that something that's going to hurt him?
There's always time to break the record, isn't there? It can happen at any point, but I think usually with it, there's a trend of that. It'll probably continue.
Yeah.
There's.
He's not figured, is he, for finishing?
You're not going to kind of worry from that side of it.
So your predictions for this one then, lads? Dawodu versus Bochniak. I think we're all going to be going the same way.
Dawodu.
I want to say Dawodu, but because of Bochniak's record, I feel like if his last one was a loss, because he's probably due a win now. But I'll go for Dawodu. It's right.
I'm going to go Dawodu as well. I'm going to say 30-27 decision.
No.
I don't think he'll be far away, to be honest with you, Carl.
Yeah.
I just hope it's fun.
Yeah.
Because they put Bochniak on this card to try and make it fun. So I just hope it delivers on that end. Mm-hmm. Moving on to fight number 2 now, and we've got a returning face, which is returning back to the octagon for the first time in something like 18 months, I think. So we've got Alex Cowboy Oliveira, the number 13 seed in the welterweight division, and he is taking on Gunny Nelson, of course making his comeback there. We'll start first and foremost with Nelson, because MMA is such a fast-moving sport. Anybody can be flavour of the month for a little bit and then just fade out the spotlight. And I think no fighter sums that up better for me than Gunny Nelson.
Yeah.
I mean, 2-3 years ago, this guy was...
Well, I remember him fighting on Bomber, and then he got signed by the UFC, and it was literally, that's all everyone talked about in the UK, because obviously he's from Iceland, but he trained with, I think he was over at Ireland with McGregor, and he sort of, he just come out of nowhere. He just come out of nowhere, and everyone was going on about him. Then all of a sudden, I don't think I know you said he got the 3 losses, but like, I don't know. I can't describe what he did. He didn't take a dip where people were saying, "Oh, he's crap. He's being found out." But we moved on to someone else.
Yeah.
We just moved on to someone else, and like I say, he's sort of been hidden. But I think he's still a hidden gem, and I would never ever underestimate him either.
I don't know why. Like you say, I don't know
why
he's come from. Like we were discussing before. His record's really good.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the people who've gone into the welterweight division since Gunny last fought. Here's some of the names for you: Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman.
What, since he last fought?
Since he last fought, these are all top 10 fighters who
Right.
weren't in the top 10 but are now.
Yeah.
So it's Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, Darren Till, Santiago Ponzinibbio. That entire generation of welterweights has completely gone. I mean, when he was around, like, you still had Lawler and Condit still at the top of the rankings.
I mean, it's. I know I'm making out that he's going to beat the man, but it's like sort of fresh meat, and for his mind to think, right, you know, he'll be looking at going past this fight. If I get this win, who's next? And he'll be looking. I mean, if he's ranked 14th, he'll be looking at someone along them lines. Whether he gets that shot, he has to get past this first. But he'll definitely be having one of them in mind. Definitely have one of them in mind.
If he has a good result from here, it's only going to take him a couple of fights. And then
Yeah, definitely.
It's just he needs a consistent run. And he needs to fight
does,
a bit more.
Does. Because it is a shame because realistically, it was once rated something unbelievable high, to be honest with you. Maybe overly rated, but like to then go down so much. And it's not like I say, it's not so much he's been getting slagged off and saying, "Oh, look, he's not this, he's being found out." It's more he's just been forgotten about.
Yeah.
But even like that Ponzinibbio, was it Ponzinibbio? I think he fought and lost that game.
Yeah, only because Ponzinibbio eye poked him to death.
Yeah, but it was one of them fights where it happened. Fair enough with that, but it kind of ended. I'm not sure if it was the first round.
First round. It was the Glasgow card.
Yeah, and it was for me. That was just the time where I was like, I waited so long for him to come back, and then that happened, and I was just like, I didn't expect to see him for a long time again.
Yeah.
Now he's back. I just want to see him get a win.
Yeah.
When we talk about Nelson's qualities, like his routes to victory, you've got to look at his jiu-jitsu game.
Yeah.
Because it's rare to find a jiu-jitsu fighter who is this good, and especially one from Europe. He's arguably the best European jiu-jitsu expert.
Yeah. Brilliant. Like I said, brilliant from a little country in Iceland, and we can't get a Canadian.
Yeah, that is, and you know what it is? That's one of them things that he brings to the table, and this is why it's one of those things where I'm like, why has he not been in the limelight so much?
I don't know this, but I mean, I know years ago before he got in the UFC, he did a lot of grappling competitions. Is he still been doing them whilst, like, with his bit time off?
I think his last one was 2013.
Right, so he hasn't. He's really knocked him on the head.
But I mean, he was like a 2-time IBJ.
I think that's what happened. I think
champion,
once he got in the UFC, and then they realised his background of his jiu-jitsu, I think that's what maybe gave him the boost to really a bit of a stardom, really, wasn't it? In a short space of time.
I think I think the losses, I think, possibly have come from a slightly stronger opponent. Some of them wins he's got haven't been the greatest opponents. I think the ones he's lost against have been maybe just
too much fun.
Maybe
like
not even too
Maia.
much, but just something that he can't handle or something. Damian Maia.
I mean, you're never going to win a grappling match with Damian Maia.
No.
Damian Maia's a different level.
But that was decision, wasn't it?
That was a decision,
yeah.
But like Rick Story, Rick Story's not the best fighter in the world, but he's an aggressive fighter.
I thought he won the Story fight.
There you go. So it's even stuff
There's
like that.
There's something more. I'll say it now. There's something more from Gunnar Nelson to come.
It has to be.
Got to be. And he knows that.
I think there's so much more to come from, like you say.
Yeah.
I
think he hasn't finished yet.
Two wins on a row.
He might never get that big hype train what he had again, but I think there's slowly but surely. I think he'll gradually get his shot against someone.
Before we look towards the future, though, he needs to look to Saturday's fight, and he's fighting a dangerous opponent, Cowboy Oliveira. Reputation for exciting fights and finishes. He had arguably one of 2017's best fights of the year against Yancy Medeiros. I love watching this guy fight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's a quality fighter. Has he beaten Condit?
I think so, yes.
I think he's beaten Condit, and I think Condit's an all-round just fantastic fighter.
Yeah.
So for me to kind of have a win against Condit makes me like rank him quite high.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Gunnar Nelson won't be taking him lightly. No one will be taking no one lightly in that fight, to be honest with you. And this could potentially be one of the fights of the night. You know, I know the different things, but there'll be an interesting fight. That I think it's probably the one for me personally. I would like to watch it because, like I say, I've known Gunnar Nelson from being not personally, but I remember him being around the UK scene before all that coming about. You know what I mean? Fighting on local shows. I think he fought maybe down Doncaster or somewhere like that. You know what I mean? Like just local shows. I think he fought Danny Mitchell and like around the Bama area. And then, like I say, I would like him to fulfil that hype train and go further.
What traits stand out for you in terms of Cowboy?
His excitement. Like I say, he's quite wild, isn't he? He is quite good. In every way, they're all good really now. I think Gunnar will want it to the floor.
Yeah.
Obviously, no matter who Gunnar fights really, I think he'll want it to the floor. But I think in particular this one, and I don't know whether he'll be able to quite handle maybe Gunnar on the floor.
I think the big question is, can he break through Cowboy's reach? Cowboy's very good at using distance management, and if Gunny can't reach him, he's got no chance of getting him to the floor.
You know, I think Gunnar Nelson's good enough to do that. I think he definitely is. I think he's good enough. He might have to take a shot or two, but I think he's more than capable of taking them shots.
But then, like you're saying, he's got the long reach, but all it takes is one of them punches to miss and then get a takedown.
Yeah.
That's it. Or take one, like I said, just let them skim, let them hit. Before you know it, it's that quick. They'll be in a brawl, and before you know it, the distance is closed, and that's when Gunnar Nelson will take his chance. And once he gets him down, providing on what time of the round he gets him down. Obviously, a minute or two to go, Cowboy should be fine. But if he gets him down quite early on in the round, might be a different story.
I think it's
but I mean, I'm not saying Cowboy's crap on the floor either. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that at all either. I just think that's definitely where Gunnar Nelson's going to want it and be more comfortable. And probably,
I think he'll get the takedown.
Yeah.
I think he'll get the takedown easy.
So our predictions for this one, lads.
It's a hard prediction, this, because I think I'm going to say Gunnar, but I don't know whether I'm saying Gunnar because of the fact that I really want him to win, rather than as opposed to if I didn't, like I say, like him so much, whether I would still pick him. It's one of them fights really. I think if they had 10 fights, they could maybe both win 5 apiece.
I think I'd lean towards Cowboy on it. I'd really, really like Gunnar to win, and I think, like I said, like with you, my heart really wants him to win because of how long he's been out, but I just don't know if he's.
And it would be good for SBG as well because they've had a rough time recently. It'd be good to get them back in the win column.
Yeah,
I'd like to. I think it might just be a big step for him just to come back.
If Gunny was a bit more active, if this was say like 4 or 5 months after his last fight, I would favour him.
I agree.
As it stands right now, I think it's just going to be a bit too hard for somebody who's going to be carrying a bit of ring rust. So I'm going to be going Cowboy second round knockout or TKO.
Yeah, I think I'll go the later rounds, and like I say, I'm going to go for Gunnar, and I'll go for submission, and it'll either be second or third round.
Yeah, I'm going to go TKO.
I think I'll definitely go out the first round either way.
So we've been commenting on the lack of Canadians on the main card. We've got somebody from Iceland on there as well. But we've also got a Brit, which is on there. Jimmy Manoa, who is the number 7 light heavyweight in the world.
Yep.
He will be taking on the number 15 middleweight in the world, Thiago Santos. This was a fight which was originally booked for UFC Sao Paulo. That unfortunately fell through. Eric Anders stepped in on short notice. One of the most bizarre cards, considering how many times they chopped and changed and the sort of Frankenstein creation of fights on that card. Despite that though, I still think this has got quite an intriguing matchup as well. 2 big power punchers in a division which is starting to slowly burn back up. People have been criticising light heavyweight for a couple of years. We're starting to slowly get the prospects and the intrigue back in that division now.
Comes down, swings in roundabouts, doesn't it?
I mean,
really does.
I think the craziest thing is Manoa's not on the London card. I know there's still time, but depending on how this fight goes, you'll obviously have to. Even if there's a massive knockout here, he's got to be like fit.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you've got to think of the fighter, and he's probably ready to fight now. And anything could happen until the London card. So
there's enough time for him. He might be thinking in his head, I can do this.
Do
fight
both.
And then
both.
Hasn't
he's
he?
Always on the London card.
I was going to say, hasn't he been on the last 3 or 4 London cards?
He's definitely on the last.
He made his name in London before the UFC, so
So there's enough time for him to do on that, and I think he needs to be, because however I know he's kind of always on that card, but his fans want to see him in London. Like, if you're going to become do a UFC in Britain, you want him to fight there. I think he might be a bit too much for Santos with his power. like you say, they're both powerful strikers, but I just don't know if maybe Manu is a bit more seasoned.
Yeah, especially at that weight class.
Yeah.
Discussing Manuwa in a bit more detail though, it's a bit of a lull for Jimmy. He's coming off successive losses for the first time in his career. Lost that fight against Blachowicz, which was arguably a fight which slipped out of his hands. He could have very easily won that one. Despite that though, he still has a reputation as a very solid fighter. Maybe he's not at that John Jones or Gustafsson level, but he can still cause people problems.
Yeah, he's a tough man. He's a hard man, and he's very good at what he does. To be honest with you, this is a shame he's on the 2 losses, because a loss here would question where he goes from now at his age, and lose 3. You know what I mean? It might be like, so I think this is a must for him now. I think it's a must win.
But he's ranked 7th.
7th, yeah.
Do you think he's got the potential to ever be top 5?
No.
Well, I think he was. I think he was number 2.
Consistent
Yeah.
top 5. Because people kind of can pop in, come out, pop in.
I think he's at his level now, and I think realistically, I think he would do well to keep 7th.
Yes.
For the rest of his career now, for however long he's got left.
Because as mentioned before, we're starting to see like the Dominic Riases and the Johnny Walkers and even the Anthony Smiths starting to come through in that division.
Yeah. And I think that he's going to be the stepping stone for them.
Yeah.
Which, don't get us wrong, I'm not saying that they're going to walk over him and beat him. And I think he'll be quite happy to take them fighters on. I think he'll be quite happy, if it's for both ways, that I think he'll be happy to take on them rather than challenge for the top 5 positions. And I think they'll be happy to fight him as a stepping stone would, and I think then they'll make good fights.
I mean, he, whether or not he thinks in his mind, he's probably not going to be fighting for the belt.
No.
Soon. Do you know what I mean? So he must kind of know his place.
And how long has he got left?
Because he is 38 years old now.
Yeah,
and
he's had a good career. And I do. I mean, I don't know him like I say personally, but I do believe if he was to lose maybe this one, he would consider probably where he would go, and if there was a retirement on the cards.
Retirement?
Well,
possibly
get one last outing in London.
Moving towards this fight though, we have to talk about Thiago Santos. Now, this is quite a quick turnaround for Santos. He beat Anders at Sao Paulo, so we're talking 2 months between those fights, and recently he was on a 5-fight winning streak. Got knocked out by David Branch, I believe, on I think it might have been the Utica card, which was around about June or July. Again, another guy who has massive KO power, and especially his body kicks.
Yeah, powerful man. It'll make a good fight. And, to be honest with you, it's probably a better fight for him than it is for Jimmy.
Yes.
You know, but saying that, going back to Jimmy, Jimmy really needed a sort of maybe a bit lower ranked fight for him, but I think if he got this win, like I say, where I think it's a better fight for him than it is for Jimmy anyhow.
Yes,
definitely.
And it's also something symbolic of a recent trend we've been seeing, which is recently it used to be the case that fighters cut a massive amount of weight to get to a lower weight class as they could to try and get that sort of advantage. Now we're starting to see people maybe cutting less weight, fighting more than natural body weight, and starting to see more success. I mentioned before Anthony Smith, who was this middle of the road middleweight and is now one of the hottest prospects of light heavyweight. He's won 3 in a row and looked really impressive doing so.
Yeah.
Is this Santos trying to do the same thing?
It very well could be.
I mean, personally, I did it in my last fight. I didn't cut the weight. I fought at the weight I walked around at, and you do feel better because for one, you're training hard at that weight. So realistically, your body's used to it. What they say is, you know, I know this is going off a bit. When I train at 5 or 6 o'clock on a night, they say that's what time you should fight. Rather than train at 11 o'clock at night, fight at then 11 o'clock at night, they say you should train at the time you're going to be fighting and everything really. So your body, going back to your weight, you should really, like I say, be training hard at only maybe 2-3 kilos over, rather than like people dropping 10. But the only downfall is, if your opponent can afford to do that, they're going to be a lot heavier than you tonight, a lot stronger, a lot more powerful puncher, everything. You know what I mean? But if you can hold your own at that weight, I think it's definitely better for you. It's definitely better for you. You do, and as the rounds go on later, I think they should make a rolling where you can only put so much weight back on.
Yes.
And let everybody, and at the end of the day, you'd fight the same people, because if everyone fought at the natural weight, it's the only reason people do it is to keep up with everyone else. That's why everyone did it. Oh, he's cutting 10 kilo. Well, I need to cut 10 kilo. Just everyone fighting their own natural weight. Be loads better. Win a couple of hours before you fight. You know what I mean?
No, I think that makes
Be
sense.
it'd be less dangerous, because people don't know the after effects yet.
Yes.
People really haven't got a clue. I mean, there's some people just round here who lose 12, 13 kilo for a fight. Then they're not just lying in bed afterwards after they've put the body through hell. They then go and having a fight, potentially 15 minutes of hell, punching each other's brain off when the brain's still severely dehydrated. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the example that comes to mind for me was Gray Maynard. I mean, Gray Maynard cut massive amounts of weight when he was around sort of his peak against Frankie Edgar. And eventually all that weight draining and all the toll it took on his body just wore him out, and he's nothing anymore. And it's sad to see, because Gray was fantastic to watch.
I think we've discussed this before on here, how the weight cutting is one of the toughest bits.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you what it is. It becomes, for a fighter, it becomes where 6 weeks before the fight, you're actually not thinking of the fight, you're thinking of your weight. It actually takes over the fight itself. The fight's nothing. The fight's the easy part. It's the weight, and it takes the fun.
Change that, surely.
I know a lot of these
Fighting.
people, it's sort of their jobs, but for people lower down, you're competing and you want, and even at a good level, but it's a hobby as well, and it really takes the sting and the fun away from the fight, because it's 6 weeks of hell weight cutting, when really you should be 6 weeks thinking, oh, I'm getting fitter, I'm getting better, I can't wait to go out there and show me talents to the world and get this win and that. But you're too busy concentrating on the weight cut, and it spoils everything.
So, 5 predictions for this one then. 205 pounds, Thiago Santos fighting for the second time, I should say, at that weight class. Jimmy Manuwa wants to try and avoid that sort of gatekeeper reputation. Where do we go?
I've got to go with Jimmy.
I've got to. I think Santos.
I think it's a
might be
dangerous
bit
fight
tough for him, but I'm going to say, just again, like I said before, just Jimmy seasoned, he knows what he's doing. I'm going to go for Jimmy.
I'm going to say Jimmy, but it wouldn't surprise me if Thiago rocks him.
Wouldn't surprise me if Thiago wins, but I think I'm going to go for Jimmy.
Yeah. So we move on to our core main event of the evening, and we are going to the women's flyweight division. It is Valentina Shevchenko, the #1 seed in the division, and she is taking on the former strawweight champion Joanna Jedrzejczyk, who is the #1 strawweight fighter in the world. Now, this is our second women's flyweight title fight which has been taking place. Now, to put this into perspective of how the division has grown in the past 12 months, our first flyweight title fight was Nico Montano versus Roxanne Modafferi. We have now gone to Joanna versus Valentina. So this division, in a quick space of time, has really built up a bit of...
Yeah, Roxanne Modafferi, I could talk for ages about how much I don't really like her. But we'll stick with these two fights. I think it's just... At the minute, it seems like the weight classes with the women as well are just all over the place. And I just don't.
They haven't steadied yet, have they?
They've not.
I mean, you've still got a couple of the tough girls which are hanging around the top 5.
But as well, I feel like sometimes a lot of these championship fights, I just feel like they're just going to be repeated.
Yeah.
Repeated.
Yeah.
So
I think they are evolving though, and I think and they don't need the boat always seems to be rocking, and like they just need to get a bit steady. And I think in a couple of years they're going in the right direction in the women's divisions.
Yeah.
They definitely are. And I think the co-main event, and we've had them. It's quite often now in the shows.
Women main eventing.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see a lot, almost this new generation of female fighters coming through. I mean,
it's grown more and more. Do you know, like when I was a kid, we were kids, UFC was growing like snowballing massively.
Yeah.
It's now that's steady and it's up the top now. The UFC, like male. I think the women's are now snowballing, and it's really. I think in a couple of years before we know it, we might get a main card full of women.
It could be easy, possibly happen.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I was watching the card in Shanghai a couple of weeks ago. Some of the female fighters coming from China, scary how good they are.
In the years to come, when the females are really got a big rooster, would you have female cards and male cards separate? So you have a full card of females, and then obviously you've got your back to your full card of males, or would you split them like they are?
I think if you make it, I'd like to see the novelty of an all-female card at one point, but you need a massive name to carry it.
Definitely.
So if Ronda had been around and they'd done an all-female card and would said, no problem with
but-
it.
But I mean, I know what you're saying, because realistically, obviously these females, I was going to say just have a couple of fight cards a year, but realistically these women want to fight different times and have however many fights a year, so they need so what I'm looking for, like consistency of events to get on. But I just thought, like if it got that big, where it's maybe not as big as the males, there's never going to be as many females as the males, but enough to maybe just have maybe half a dozen shows a year, maybe one at the end of the year, a big one in a big arena, but maybe pull down the arenas a little bit smaller, and maybe just have all female fight full female fight
What's
card.
the most female fights that have been on the card?
We had about 5 or 6. Is there?
I think they've had 3 or 4 before, but that's including prelims. I think
Yeah,
they've got-
on a main event then.
no, I'm not, sorry, I wasn't saying main card. I was talking the whole card there.
they've only done about 2 on the main card before.
Yeah, I thought we'd had them maybe with 5 on, but maybe not.
Going to this fight though, as mentioned before, it's the second chance for Valentina to become the flyweight champion. She was supposed to fight Nico Montano at UFC 228. That fell through because of Nico's issues with the weight cutting. And I think this division needs a champion at its figurehead to actually properly get the momentum going, as it were.
Yeah.
Would Valentina be a good choice for that?
She could be, but again, it's that thing of, for me, that it would have to be the person there who's consistent, who's
Yes.
going to keep winning.
Yeah.
She can do that, but I think as well with Joanna, they're gonna have a rivalry that's just gonna. I don't want to see them fight 17 times in the whole of UFC, and it's just them two battling. There was a time Ronda Rousey and Misha was just them constantly kind of.
Yeah.
I want to see someone kind of take dominance and then kind of put it to bed,
Yeah.
and then just be that dominant
Yeah,
champion.
yeah.
She can do it.
And then maybe in 3 or 4 fights time, maybe have another one.
Yeah.
But like, say
But
not
not just repeatedly
No.
like we fought. Okay, let's fight again.
And
let's
that's the
fight
worry.
again.
And that's the worry I have as well, because if you look away from Joanna and you look at the other contenders in that division,
not deep, is it?
No, I mean, Caitlin Chukagian's up there, Sajara Eubanks. It's not a strong division.
No. It can only get stronger.
Can, but I think there seemed to be a time. I don't like to always bring it back to Ronda, but Ronda seemed to be that kind of figurehead in that.
But in this position now, would
that
you have
people
made this
wanted
many
to be.
weight divisions for the females, or would you have kept it a bit more less weights to build a stronger, deeper top 10?
I think it's a pros and cons, because I think 125 is more of a natural weight for women than, say, 135 and especially 145. But we've seen what's happened to women's bantamweight in the post-Ronda era.
Yeah.
Because she left and because women's flyweight got introduced, that division is dead.
Yeah.
There is no action in that division right now.
I think, like you're saying, with the
I wouldn't make too many weights in the female division.
No.
I know it might be
You
hard.
need someone to bring it in. You need
But-
someone to kind of be that star in that division.
Yeah.
Going back to Valentina though, because we can't overlook, this is one of the best Muay Thai fighters that the UFC has had, especially for women. Former #1 contender at bantamweight, so she was fighting in a weight class 10 pounds higher than what she normally is.
Yeah.
And despite that, she was picking up wins over the likes of Juliana Pena, destroyed Holly Holm on the feet, and then on the flyweight debut against Priscilla Cachoeira, which was a massive mismatch, but still, she looked almost Khabib-like in how dominant she was on the ground.
And that's what, if you have someone like that as your champion, fair enough, Khabib's like a complete different animal. But if you have someone who can be dominant and dominate in all those areas, that's what you want.
But we need
And
wait,
Nova as well.
That's what I mean.
it's the fact that we need a dominant champion, though, but who's getting a different an actual hard opponent
Yeah.
every, like, maybe 3 times a year, and like giving them a fight. But yes, still dominating, but giving them a fight, not pushovers or fighting the same people.
Demetrius Johnson, it seemed like you cleaned out the division, and then it was like, who does he fight?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no one there. If you're gonna have Valentina, say she's the champion, and you've got maybe 3 people she can fight, then it's like, who do we go to now? Like you say, it could be. I don't know what you do with the division now. If you just scrap it completely, do you?
They'll be thinking about it. They'll be definitely considered.
Well, male flyweight's
That's what I
gone.
mean.
So I'm hoping out for that women's heavyweight division coming up. Everyone wants to see Gabby Garcia in the UFC.
Oh, wow.
Aye,
Tell you what, it'd be entertaining.
I know,
That'd be
I know.
It would just be Gabby versus like
Brock.
On a more serious note, we're going to be talking about Joanna. Now, Joanna has always been a favourite of the UFC top brass. She held that strawweight title for a long time, and much as we were talking about before, she had that aura around her before the Rose fight. But she did bounce back from those losses. Good win over Tisha Torres, and now she's making this jump up to fight an old rival. They actually fought 3 times in Muay Thai. Valentina won all 3, but if you actually watch those fights...
So back to chuckling. Right, go on.
Yeah, Golden Boy will rearrange this fight in around 2035. But if you look at that fight, Joanna was much skinnier than what she was. Dare I say she looked scrawny in those Muay Thai fights.
But they would have still been, surely they'd have still fought each other at the same weight.
Same weight class, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Joanna has fought more times at flyweight than what Valentina has.
Right.
Which I found very interesting. Critically acclaimed kickboxer. I think she's great at using her reach, and I think the pace of her striking. We saw that against Jessica Andrade, and there was a lot of people out there thinking Andrade is just going to steamroll her. Yeah. But the way Joanna used her movement and just completely flummoxed Andrade, she is capable of some fantastic things in the octagon.
With Valentina having outside the UFC and not even in MMA, but a 3-0 record over, do you think that's going to be a big point in it?
It's going to be a big psychological effect, and even Valentina said that before.
For both sides.
It has to be, doesn't it?
Got to be. If someone beat me 3 times, at anything, to go there, obviously in the competition like that, then to go and fight them anywhere else. Unless, obviously you were just a jiu-jitsu expert and beat you 3 times in a boxing fight, then you'll fight them. Yeah. That's very different. But they're still going to be showing the Muay Thai skills off, and I think it's got to, psychological, like Karl says there, be playing a huge part in it.
And I think another factor as well is that Valentina was one of Rose's training partners for their 2 fights against Joanna. So I think maybe that's...
There's a lot here.
And do you know what it is? I'll be honest, I'm not a fighting style and fighting ability, yes, but I'm not a fan of Joanna. There's nothing there that appeals to me. Fight style, yes. Personality, and it's just not my kind.
But we've said in the past, so it should be about fighting and not personality.
Yes. But she's not likable enough for me, to. Who we discussed this about before? There's fighters you just don't like.
That's fair enough.
But ability-wise, great. But she doesn't make me want her to win. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think she handles losing very well.
No.
I think that's something I'll definitely agree with you about.
She gets a bit bitter.
Yes.
Be like Harry Redknapp.
There's going to be boatloads of Americans who are Googling Harry Redknapp right now.
I know.
I think another factor as well, which could possibly play a part in this, is Joanna is a bit of a slow starter when it comes to her fights. We've seen her get rocked before early on. Rose capitalised on it, but even Claudia knocked her down in their second fight. Is that something that Valentina can maybe capitalise on? I mean, Valentina's never been known for her power, but people didn't think that about Rose before 217, did they?
Skills they've got power behind it, man. With speed comes power. You know what I mean? They've got what people say on the telly isn't what, you know what I mean. They might not look anything, but they are. We've got 2 good strikers here, really.
And it depends if you see the punch coming.
Yeah, that's it.
You might not be the strongest striker, but if you don't see that punch coming, you're gonna get.
And what follows up after that? You know what I mean? They can put combinations together like that.
Yeah.
So a very intriguing fight. Most bookmakers have Valentina as the favourite for this one. Where do we stand?
I'm going for the easy option. Go Valentina.
I think I will. I did honestly beforehand think that Joanna might pinch it, mostly because I don't like her, and people I don't like always win.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I didn't realise that had 3 fights in the Muay Thai as well.
I didn't.
And to win 3-0 is quite...
That's a dominance act.
Yes.
There's no question about it.
I know this is the Muay Thai fight, but still, I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to say Valentina as well, simply because Joanna has fought quite a few times at strawweight. She's making the move up. Valentina's moving down. And Valentina handled a lot of those bantamweight fighters very well. So I think she's a naturally bigger fighter. I think she's stronger if it goes to the ground. We saw that against Pena, that she was able to submit Pena off her back. I think if it was just a purely a Muay Thai fight, Joanna could make it very close. Bearing in mind everything else, though, I'm going to say Valentina decision.
Yeah. Decision. I think they might get both drawn into it. and I think there could be a stoppage.
I can't see Valentina. I don't think Valentina has the power to finish it. And I think Joanna can swarm people. She does that with strikes before, but
that, I don't think that's always a positive for her. I think she gets quite emotionally involved in it, and then suddenly that's her head out of the game.
Yeah.
Like the second Rose fight, it was like she almost went in there just to end it as quick as she could, and just didn't go away. So
I think another factor as well is what's going to happen to Joanna if she was to win, because Joanna said she still has a heart set on getting the strawweight title back. So is that title going to end up being vacated again? What happens if she wins that belt?
I don't know. Do the UFC let all that happen?
Unless they maybe do Joanna versus Rose stroke Andrade, champion versus champion, because they know they love the super fights, don't they?
They do at the minute.
I think the females maybe sometimes need them super fights, though, because there's nothing else out there. Do you know? I mean, if for the males, I think when they're doing the super fight, sometimes you think, hang on a minute, he deserves his shot there, he deserves his shot there. But these females, you know, I think sometimes maybe at the minute, until they get a very strong top 10, the super fights make sense.
Well, there was a time super fights was like, it never happened. It was like a dream. It was like it could happen.
But it never would.
BJ versus GSP.
It's just happening.
I think I read a stat that BJ versus GSP was the only super fight Zuffa ever did. Since WME took over, they've done 2. There's another 2 which are coming. And we were just talking before we got on the air. You were saying there about women need the super fights. Yeah, we're doing Cyborg versus Nunes at 232. I just don't think the enthusiasm's there for that fight.
No.
Do you care who wins that fight?
No.
Well, I do. I do because I don't like Nunes. So.
Right. No.
That's what I mean. There's no kind of.
No, there's not enough calling for it, but there's not enough opponents for them.
No,
this is you're in a real.
You're
in a bit of a, because realistically, I know what you. That's why that's going to. But I know exactly what you mean by that. A super fight, the whole world should stop still for that minute and watch this fight. Like we say, when it really is where. It's a hard one. I can see why they've done it, and I would probably do the same.
You know, and I'll tell you what's another crazy thing here is I don't think of it as a super fight. Like it is, but in my head, like you say, when I think of a super fight, I'm like, that's happening.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
This, I just think it's 2 women going to fight each other.
Yeah.
I don't care who wins.
Yeah.
So we move on to our main event, which is one of the most eagerly anticipated main events for a long time, especially if you're a hardcore MMA fan. The featherweight title is on the line. It is Max Holloway who is defending against Brian T-City Ortega. Originally booked for UFC 226, Max had to pull out of that fight due to injury. A lot of speculation over what that injury was. Some people arguably saying it was concussion symptoms, some saying he went down ill. There's still a mystery around that. I'd say look into it. One thing Dana White has said though is if Max Holloway fails to make this fight, he will be stripped of the title regardless. And if he was to fall through, Renato Moicano, who was supposed to be on the fight against Bektic, will be stepping in as the replacement. Very similar to what happened with Usman in Woodley versus Till.
He said it how it is, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But
I kind of think that's. Although I was shocked by that, I think that's probably fair.
Yeah.
You can't just constantly be like, oh, I've not made weight, I can't make weight.
And they tried a lot of times to get Max to defend his belt as well, because there was a Frankie Edgar fight at 222, and then of course Ortega. So I understand it from the UFC's perspective. It would be disappointing for Max, because I love watching Max fight, but we've got to think business here.
Yeah, definitely. And it's fair for people as well, you know what I mean? There's featherweight divisions are
and it's a good division as well.
You know, they all calling for it really, so. But
my only issue is, and I kind of come back to it all the time, is if Max Holloway is this global superstar, does he threaten him with that? Because I always think there's slightly more leeway when you're this kind of megastar.
Well,
I don't think he has the pull as other big superstars.
No, he's not McGregor levels. No. I mean, if this was a McGregor
got a belt taken off him.
Yeah.
The other two, but
I don't think Max has a leg to stand on though.
Well, Max's pay-per-view buys have never been great. I mean, the Pettis fight never did great, and neither did the Waldo fights. He's a fantastic fighter.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. So say he's that McGregor kind of. He's got this.
He hasn't got that ego, like sort of. I don't know what but I can see why Dana White's coming from. You know what I mean? And the whole division as well. Yeah. I think this fight will go ahead exactly how it's meant to now. I think that's where they're coming from. Right? Okay, you're having this easy. If this doesn't go ahead, you're getting it. And I don't think for 1 minute now that this fight won't go ahead.
I've been following Max's career for a while since he first came into the UFC, and I always thought this guy has a lot of potential. He could maybe be a champion at some point in the future. What made confirm my mind, though, to say he was ready for it was when he fought against Jose Aldo. I just thought, fighting Aldo in Brazil, this is going to be too much for him.
Yeah.
But he rose to the occasion. He started to take control of the fight in the second round, and then finished, in my opinion, one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
And I think it was a real coming-of-age performance for him.
Yeah.
Repeated it at 218. If he got that fight against Frankie and he fought at 222, I would have thought, this guy is on an absolute roll. He's going to be champion for a long time. But what's happened in the past couple of months with all these concerns over his welfare, it's sort of taken a bit of the
But he still never got the shine. Like you say, he went to Brazil, beat Aldo. It was nothing from when McGregor knocks him out.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So it's quite. He's never had that. But all he has to do is keep turning up and winning. You know what I mean?
It seems crazy though, but if McGregor hadn't knocked Aldo out, and that fight had happened, would it have been more?
Probably.
Yes.
It takes the sting off him. It does.
Take it off.
It does. And you know what? It would have been interesting. I know we keep saying you hate rematches, but realistically, McGregor and Aldo never fought.
They didn't.
No.
They never had a fight. Don't get us wrong. I'm not taking nothing away from McGregor because McGregor won. You know, it happens. But they never had a back and forth fight, and that would have been interesting maybe of seeing.
Like, people have been saying, like, who's Conor's next opponent going to be, and they all been saying, like, it could be Dustin Poirier or Cowboy Cerrone. I want to see the Aldo rematch.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, because I'm right when I'm saying they didn't have a
They
fight.
didn't.
And Aldo said he wants to move up to 155 at some point.
Yeah. I think it would still, though. I think that wouldn't be a very good fight for McGregor, if I'm honest. You know what I mean?
Well, I've seen something online about McGregor versus Poirier, Ferguson versus Khabib, and then the winner of them fighting each other.
Yeah,
It makes maybe more sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But again, I think like people like Poirier and Max Holloway, but especially Poirier, have stepped up so much. It's a complete different fight now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't know. And like I said, because he's been active and McGregor hasn't, suddenly that fight is slightly more evened out for me.
What, for you, are the biggest strengths that Max Holloway has? What's his keys to victory?
For me, he was an all-round fighter for me at one point, and I think another thing for him is, and I always say it, is he Hawaiian?
Hawaiian, yeah.
Hawaiian, never take anything away from Hawaiians' hearts. I always say that for every Hawaiian, that's their biggest thing. You can't take. They just keep going. No matter what.
Yeah.
Even if you get battered and
He's a
bruised
complete
and you keep
all-rounder,
going.
isn't he?
Yeah.
And we're starting to see a bit of a renaissance with Hawaiian MMA. Like, just going on a bit of a detour. Obviously, we've got Max as champion in the UFC. I know Bellator are doing a show in Hawaii, I think in December time. So, that area is starting to real.
I don't know why, because I feel like the Hawaiians maybe had their time even, maybe slightly before. Like if there was a few more fighters from Hawaii than I think there is now. So I feel like they probably should have done that a bit earlier.
Yeah.
But maybe like you're saying, it's a resurgence. There's more people coming through.
Yeah. They used to have an event. They used to have I remember watching a fight show from Hawaii before, and I think it was BJ Penn was on it years ago. I think he fought like in an open weight tournament or something.
Or was that the Machida one?
Yes, he fought Machida. I think so. Did a bit of it like something like that. I remember watching. That's years and years ago. That. But so Hawaii's always had a bit of MMA interest in it, really. So
it seems like now they're kind of making this a Hawaii event. They probably should have done them
years ago,
before,
maybe.
Like, I was thinking, who's the third best Hawaiian fighter? Because you've got BJ and Max, and either could be number one. Who would be number three? What, Travis?
Oh yeah, but he's.
To be honest with you, there'll be people who'll be Hawaiian who I don't even realise is Hawaiian. That's you know what I mean.
Well, they've had their fighters. Is Kendall Grove? Is he Hawaiian?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, I'm
I
afraid.
feel like he is, but they've had their kind of.
Definitely.
Yeah. Like James Tahuna, I'm sure he's Hawaiian.
So I like to say that sometimes I don't even know who is Hawaiian and who not, but like I say,
I know I don't want to come across like any kind of racist, but New Zealand, Hawaiian. Sometimes I'm like, which are they from New Zealand? Are they from Hawaii? I'm not sure. So James Tahuna could be from either.
We'll have to quickly change the subject then
Yes.
before you get sued for libel. And we'll move on to Holloway's opponent, Brian Ortega, who is one of the most unpredictable fighters, especially in that division, because you just don't know what's going to happen with him.
yeah.
I mean, it's just, and arguably one of the best clutch fighters as well. I mean, there's been so many times where Ortega has been losing a fight, and yet is able to pull these submission wins.
They're
these
my
knockout
sort of
wins.
favourite type of fighters, you know, because anyone can go in, dominate a fight and thing, but to be getting beat, in your heart and your mind, still be thinking, no, this isn't over yet, and pull off a win is what I call a true fighter. A true fighter, to be getting beat, to be on the back foot, to then win the fight, is by far the best type of fighter.
There's no quit. You just want, you want to keep fighting until you win.
I bet you're a Derek Lewis fan then.
Big time. How did you know?
Yeah, that's
just
why
an
this
inkling.
fight is really exciting for me, because, like I say, I think Max Holloway's got the heart anyway.
Yeah.
And plus, Brian Ortega, he's never going to quit.
And we're going to have 5 rounds of these lads, aren't we?
It's going to be. I can see it going 5 rounds.
Yeah.
I think the key thing for
And,
me,
and both going for the finish.
Yeah.
5th round.
the key for me when it comes to Brian is I think he's one of the most intelligent fighters in the UFC right now. And I mean, if you look at the Frankie fight, for example, yeah, Frankie was like starting to take the upper hand in the stand-up. But if you look at how Brian operates in that fight, he notices Frankie sort of dips his head a little bit as he's coming in. And a couple of times he tries to throw that elbow to just rock him. Like 2 or 3 times he misses and then manages to get in there. And that's not luck. He knew what he was doing there. And I think he has this real habit of just luring people in, understanding what their weaknesses are, and then capitalizing on them.
Yeah, to understand, to pick up on something in the fight, he's very good, you know what I mean? He's really understanding what's going on and everything else. He's picking up things. Because other people, you get a game plan and what you've been doing, you sort of stick to that and you don't change your ways. But he's picked up on something in the fight and gone on to capitalise on it to win the fight. He's a clever man. And
of course his clinch work is fantastic as well. I mean, the one that always sticks in my mind was the standing guillotine against Swanson.
Yeah, that's why I think this fight is so good, honestly. Like,
it is a great fight.
We discussed this fight, I think, a couple of shows ago, and it was just like, that's a fight we want to watch. I think it's, like I've said, Brian Ortega's training videos just so exciting.
Flying guillotines.
Yeah, like I'll just watch them and they're just like, this is like watching a fight. This is just unbelievable. So to watch him doing these things in the actual fight against someone of Max Holloway's quality, and plus the amount of strikes Max Holloway is striking at you as well, I just think this is.
I think when we were going back about being less Canadians on the show, I think this is the fight they've had to have to sort of revive the show, other than give it someone, because like you said, probably CMPL probably was maybe initially going to be on the show.
I think Brian Ortega has come on so much, and he's
striking especially.
Yeah, and I think we kind of discussed about these fighters that are getting pushed to the top too early and stuff. I think Brian Ortega seems to have been someone who's just steadily
and he's done it correct.
He's done it the right way.
Because he hasn't had the ego thing of everyone thing. So he's just in the background quietly worked his way up the ladder, which what we've said from day one is the correct way to do it.
And I think he's done it the right way, and I think it's.
And now he's ready.
Yeah, and it's going to turn out better for him, I think, than some of these other people.
The key factor for me in this fight is Brian going to be able to get that clinch? Because Max is very good at distance management, and
it's got 25 minutes.
It's going to happen.
And it just takes one mistake with Brian Ortega, and he's got you.
I think in a 25-minute fight, it will happen.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not looking forward to making this prediction.
No, I'm not.
I've went first every time.
Oh, so I guess it's me going to be on the spot here. I think Max's distance management is going to be too good for him. So I'm going to say I don't think Max finishes him. But I'm going to say Max decision.
I think Max is the better fighter.
Yeah.
I think realistically, probably my heart and my head is saying Max, but I don't know why. But I'm going to go for an upset. I'm going to go for an upset, and I think that might come round and bite us on the arse. But I really we'll discuss this in the next show. But I really just think this is going to be an upset. I think the timing of everything, I do. I think they'll probably get a rematch and Max will get the win. But if my head is saying Ortega for this one.
I think it's one of them fights where there's just something crazy could happen.
Yeah.
The Ortega might just come out.
I've gone safe on every fight. I'm not going safe for this one.
And I'm going to go safe on this one. I'm just going to go Holloway decision.
Yeah. What do we think of this card though? Because I mean, we were just talking about that main event there. The rest of the card might not.
If we'll put the show on the foot. If this was in England, would we go?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's only one Englishman on.
Yeah.
One English, or whether it's on the horse or the main card. They've only got one Canadian on the main card, so I think it is worthy of going.
I think the main and the co-main especially are going to be very intriguing matchups.
Do you think the London card will be as good as that? Because I don't.
No.
it's hard to find
I
London
think.
cards that are ever.
I mean, London. What we get in England, we get a lot of Englishmen on, so that draws us to because we're quite loyal fans.
Yes.
And I think that's why we do it. We only get it like once or twice a year. But I think I don't think we get a card as good as that.
But the thing with the English cards is they're not always like as many household names on there.
No.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
We'll get the main event and then a couple of like English people that are fan favourites.
Yeah,
Then
that's not what Canada's done. So
No.
we were going back and saying, really they should be putting more Canadians, but maybe the Canadians prefer this. They're just getting real good fighters from all over the world. So
yeah, I think it's a card that I think could unexpectedly be really good.
yeah,
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that is all the time that we have left for this preview show for UFC 231. We hope to be back as well later on in the month where we talk about UFC 232. Of course, our time where we would be recording that would just be a couple of days before Christmas, so we'll have to see whether or not the lads can make it for that one. If we do, we'll need to break out the Christmas jumpers, lads.
Yep, that's no bother. We'll certainly do that.
Yep. And of course, it's a big one as well, Jones versus Gus 2.
Oh,
Brilliant.
I've been waiting
Brilliant.
for that fight for years. It's don't disappoint, please.
I don't want to sound awful. I've got a feeling it's not going to happen.
Oh, don't call.
I just think
Bearer of doom.
It's just not going to happen now, is it?
I just think
Jinx.
Gus has had
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Gus has had so many injury issues over the years. John's had his own personal demons. I just can't trust either of them to make it. And the worst part is, if somebody does pull out, say 2 or 3 weeks before, there's only one man, in my opinion, who is mad enough to step in and take that fight on short notice, and that's Anthony Smith. Could you imagine John Jones versus Anthony Smith? What a mismatch that would be.
There's quite a few people in that division though who's a mismatch for Jones.
I don't want to
Mismatch.
discuss this, Carl. I don't want, because this is like it's going to happen now. We already looked
I know
at
you
the
look-
replacements.
Right, Carl, that's enough of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be hounded out the building by these two. Whilst they do that, that is the end of the show. My name's been Carl Bimbridge. That's been Tim Close.
Thank you.
That's been Max Grant.
Yeah.
And we hope you enjoy UFC 231. Bye-bye for now.